can't just read all the press clippings after winning 38-6. You got to go repeat the performance, or at least come close to repeating the performance against a bad Raiders team this coming Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think, is it Kendrick that does Stay Humble?
Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah. I mean, it was Sean today being Mr. Fancy Pants, wasn't he? Like, we're going to expect him to come out and praise his team and his young quarterback after easily the best game that they've played. And he kind of squashes that and says, hey, man, we got to stay. You can't get complacent. You got to continue to get better. So I kind of like the message of that. I mean, I think he's been pretty even keel throughout. It was like a fatherly like press conference to me. Like, hey, man, you had a good game. Settle down. Yeah. Let's not get too crazy. Stay humble within yourself.
And Zach Bye made a good point on the drive in the last half hour that kind of when people zig, Sean likes to zag,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
he's kind of just the contrarian, and really for the first time in the Sean Payton era in Denver, even though they did taste a little success with the 5-game winning streak last year, but the defense was getting more credit than the QB was. Like, people are praising Sean and Bo. This is the first time we've sort of seen how he handles this when he's not the villain, when he's the good guy, and not just the good guy locally, but the good guy around the country.
Well, yeah, and then it's interesting because I know you had it out with James a little bit last night, and I heard him on earlier talking about he's close, right? He's ready to start scoping out jewelry stores, but he's not ready to buy a ring. I think, for me, with it being a political year, I am endorsing Bo Nix at this point.
He is your candidate.
Yeah, and I get the reluctancy to do so because we saw a game where Drew Lock a few years back went into Houston and went nuts, and it felt like there's our answer, right?
Remember he was doing the Buzz Lightyear celebration after throwing touchdowns to Noah Fant?
Yeah, boo, boo. And then it kind of fell apart, right? So I get the reluctancy or maybe just being a bit apprehensive as to say you want to see that. But I'm just saying because I've been holding off, and now I think you've seen enough within a rookie year, the amount of progress he's made. That was a chess and checkers game, Will, the other day, was it not? Like, it was like the Broncos were playing chess, and the Falcons, they looked like the Panthers when they were in town a few weeks back. Like, they had no answer, offensively or defensively. And going into the game, I was uncomfortable with it because I thought Atlanta was a better team. I mean, they're far better than a Carolina team, right?
Sure.
So I was expecting it to be kind of more of a battle. I thought it was going to be like a one-score type of game, but they dominated the Falcons start to finish. And Bo may have missed a couple here or there, but he also had a few drops, right, where he hit his receiver. I think he hit Court right in the hands. I mean, the one came back and was a catch for little Jordan Humphrey when they said he didn't catch it, but it was a fumble. He recovered it himself.
That was a terrible call, by the way. Little Jordan almost, burning you for a third time this season.
Exactly. So other than that, I mean, like, that domination on Sunday, it kind of like I was shocked by it.
I was too. I think shocked is an appropriate word. I thought the Broncos were going to win, but I picked them to win by a field goal, okay? Not by 32 points. And there's a reason the number was like 2.5, 3 points going into the week with the odds makers. Another thing, too, as we start to look forward to the Raiders, but we're also talking about the Falcons, did you catch the Justin Simmons pregame speech?
No.
That sort of went viral?
No.
We can't even play it on the radio because he's F-bombing the Broncos fans. They're trying to win in front of their home crowd. F them.
Oh, wow.
And 9 News got the footage, and Scotty Gage put it out there. And, I mean, it was like old takes exposed to the max.
Wow, he's a model citizen when he was here, too.
I know. We have treated Justin Simmons so well in this town. And he doesn't just say bleep him about the Broncos players. He says bleep him about the Broncos fans. And then I got to say it was some karma, instant karma, as Javonte Williams is trucking him over. And then about 6 offensive linemen come in and push him into the end zone. It was like, eat some dirt, Justin. Eat some dirt, bud.
Yeah, man, and you had a rookie quarterback just carve up your defense like it was like a 7-on-7 drill or something. I mean, he knew exactly where he wanted to go from start to finish. And sometimes I wonder, is it just, they say styles make fights in boxing. Obviously, that didn't happen last Friday night. That was trash. But when we watch this one, is it like Sean has such familiarity with the NFC South, but these are different coaching staffs.
Yeah.
And it seems like they just lick their lips when they know that they're going to play an opponent from that division. And they've housed all of them.
I think Sean hates that division. He got that question a couple times last week, and he tried to downplay it. But, I mean, you coached a lot of big games against Atlanta over the years. You coached a lot of big games against Carolina over the years, against Tampa Bay over the years. I know some of those teams are more down now, but if you're Sean, I think the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Bucs, you despise, right? It'd be like, I don't know, Mike Shanahan, if he came back to the game, like, even if he was in a different city, every time he played the Raiders, he would still hate the Raiders,
Yeah.
And the Saints game was unique, obviously. And Sean did get a little emotional when he went on the prime set after that game, and rightfully so. He spent nearly 2 decades there. But I do think there was an element of the schedule lined up well. You only get to play the NFC South once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it worked out nicely for the Broncos that this just so happened to be Bo Nix's rookie year.
Yeah, well, and I guess my point is, like, I don't know what it is about those teams because, I mean, I guess you might have some familiarity with Todd Bowles, but I wouldn't say a ton. I mean, they went when Sean was finishing up, Bruce Arians was the guy there, right? Who's the dude in Carolina, brand new coach as well. He hasn't gone against a Raheem Morris team. I mean, maybe was he back at the Bucs way back when he got his first job? Is that where it was at?
Yeah, it might have been like an interim thing, but
no,
yeah.
he was the head coach.
Okay, and then he was an interim somewhere else.
It was when the NFL was on that young kick. It was the same time like Josh McDaniels got hired.
Okay.
They were like 31-year-old coaches. But like, I don't know what it is. The only thing I can point to is that your quarterback, the game is completely starting to slow down for him.
Well, and I think, too, and we'll get to the Sean stuff, but the flatline stuff, like if you're Bo right now, I don't really know how you can get too overexcited because you're playing so great. It's just looking natural, right? Like you said, the game is slowing down for him. Like there are times in sports where guys can get arrogant, okay, and it can bite them in the butt. But if you're Bo Nix right now, you're having so much fun. Why would you change anything at all? Because you're right, the game looked easy for him on Sunday. And those touchdown passes, people are saying, well, he didn't throw deep bombs on all of them. I don't care. That's a good play design. That's good execution. And he got AFC Offensive Player of the Week today for his efforts. But, yeah, I don't really worry about Bo Nix sort of getting out of this groove because when you're in the zone, you're kind of just in the zone. And it's not like the opponents coming up are going to be all that challenging.
Yeah, and then the comfortability level between quarterback and play caller, I think, they're starting to mesh that a lot more. Mm-hmm. Where when the game was faster at the beginning of the regular season, I was one of the ones being critical of Sean Payton and where's this scheme that we've heard about? Has the game passed you by? And I didn't actually say the game passed them by, but the scheme wasn't working, and everybody was just saying it was because they didn't have talent. Well, they have the same talent they had at the beginning of the season, Will. And the scheme the other day was like, that's what I'm saying. It was chess for Sean and Bo versus the checkers that Raheem Morris and his defense was putting out there.
Yeah, here was Bo Nix today on how he's gotten to this level of consistency.
Well, just I think experience and being on this level and playing, well over 10 games now, and you can learn a lot in 10 games, and still learning, still growing, but just finding ways to execute the play that's called. No matter what it is, run play, pass play, it doesn't matter. Just finding the right way to go with the ball.
I mean, he talks about experience, Cello. It's remarkable that experience happened in 2 months, right? Like,
yes.
You think that would be an answer that a guy would give in year 2 or year 3 as he's had full seasons, full off seasons. He gave that answer 2.5 months to his tenure as being the Denver Broncos starting quarterback. He looked lost in Seattle. He did not look good against the Steelers. The fact he has been able to flip this switch sort of overnight from the month of October into November is remarkable. We really haven't seen much like this in our lifetimes.
No, and especially and then just commend Sean Payton for him meshing with his quarterback, but also the patience level that he's shown. If you look at all these rookie quarterbacks, I think Jaden Daniels came out on fire, right? I mean, his first 2 games were a little bit slow, but then it was like he was going to be runaway rookie of the year, right? Caleb Williams at a certain point before they went on this losing streak looked like he had found like how to play quarterback in the NFL before they lost the game in Washington, then kind of fallen apart down the stretch. I'd much rather see it the way it's been, where Bo started slow, and if he continues to grow, to be playing your better football when you're getting closer to the colder months in the playoff time.
And I think too, to that point that you just made there, like, winning AFC Offensive Player of the Week today is a big deal, okay? Because this wasn't a rookie award, and I'm not dismissing his 2 rookie awards. This is the entire conference.
Yeah.
And they said he was the best player. I don't care if you've played in the league 6 weeks. I don't care if you played in the league 16 years. He was the best player of anyone. Cello, I am starting to get the sense, and the odds makers are reflecting this, there's real momentum that Bo Nix is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And that's not something any of us thought possible even, 2-3 weeks ago.
No, you're exactly right. And it almost sounds like hyperbolic, but I mean, the proof's there. I think the cool thing, Will, was watching that heartbreaking loss in Kansas City, and you and I talked about it last week.
Oh, we had a therapy session about it.
There's two ways that team can rebound from a game like that, right? You can go, woe is me, and then drop another game at home where you haven't really played all that well all year against a decent Atlanta opponent. Or you could beat them. And I, like you, picked the Broncos to win, but it was barely, I think I said 27-25.
Yeah, close game.
Something like that. But for them to take that gut punch that they received in Arrowhead the week prior and turn around, and your young quarterback too, to realize, hey man, I played as good as I could, especially in that last drive, just to put us in position to a game that you should have won. For him to come out and play his best game by far, and I think I heard you say it's the highest rated Bronco game since a Peyton Manning game, right?
Yeah, it's the second highest in the history of the franchise.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
He's a rookie quarterback.
Yep.
And Atlanta isn't Carolina.
And how many games did Peyton Manning put up 50 burgers? Like, it felt like all the time, especially in 2013 and the early part of 2014.
Yeah, man, he had 7 touchdowns, both 4 the other day.
Yeah.
And I mean, the argument, I guess, that Sean's trying to make is you could have had more had you been a little bit more disciplined here or there. I don't know how you could ask a rookie to go out and play better in that situation, coming off the game that you had just lost to a divisional opponent where it felt like everything, you were going to beat that team, right? You were going to take away their unbeaten season. Now, they ended up going losing anyways, but maybe the Broncos, exposed a little bit more about the Chiefs, but they're not afraid of them.
No, I don't think they're scared of Kansas City, and I think doing what you did in Arrowhead was an important step in terms of if that is a playoff matchup, which remember, it could be now, Cello, because there's a chance that Buffalo catches KC. They're only a game back in the loss column. I think the Chiefs, we all agree, have escaped 3 or 4 or 5 times this year. There's a real shot that Kansas City's the 2 seed, and I've broken it down. I broke it down with James last night. I break it down every week at denversports.com. Unless something crazy happens, the 7 seed is where the Broncos can be. And 7 plays 2 round 1. And if Buffalo does catch Kansas City, that would be a return trip to Arrowhead in January.
Well, you got the schedule right in front of you, but it's Vegas this week, right?
2-8, bad football team.
Yes, and you hope you get your first sweep against a Raider team in a long time.
Well, when's the last time they won in Allegiant Stadium? Had they ever won in Allegiant Stadium?
I don't think so.
I mean,
because they had lost 7 straight.
Yeah,
before the couple months ago.
And when did Allegiant open? It opened the COVID year, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember it being a big deal. Hey, we just built this brand fancy new stadium and no one can come sit in it.
So we'll see how they perform on the road, which they played well on the road this year.
And that crowd, I mean, it's always orange in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
That thing is going to be painted orange.
Oh, yeah, my cousin will be there. I mean, there's plenty of people I know that are going just for that.
You cannot tell me that there are that many people, in Vegas, not in Oakland, not in Los Angeles, that bleed silver and black, that are willing to go be passionate about the Raiders when they can get $500 from a Broncos fan to go watch their team.
Well, you'll get a few of the crazy, the ones that always dress up and are always there. But like you said, it will be heavily dominated by orange this Sunday.
Like what percentage when they show the aerial shot of that stadium will be orange?
I'm going to say 65%.
I do too. I think it'll look more like a Broncos home game. We've had these conversations over the years where it's like, well, even 50-50 would be great because then it feels like a neutral site game. I'm expecting it not even to feel like a neutral site game. I'm expecting it to feel like a home game.
Same here. So if you handle your business there, which I think if going off of the momentum they built against Atlanta, I don't know how they fall against, you have to knock on wood, avoid an injury or something where something like that could happen. I don't see how you lose that game.
Well, and Vegas is totally 1-2-3 Cancun. I mean, they're just trying to get through these last. I mean, you got who on Vegas scares you? I think it's 2 guys, right?
Bowers.
It's Brock Bowers and it's Max Crosby.
There you go.
I think you can game plan for 2 players. I think this coaching staff is strong enough that they can figure out, okay, how do we make sure Max Crosby doesn't wreck the football game? And how do we make sure Brock Bowers doesn't go off for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns? Those are the 2 names being tossed around Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, as we speak.
Agreed. And then how can you improve even upon the great performance you had against Atlanta? And I don't want to look ahead, but then it's Cleveland at home, a Monday Night Football game, which you have the Broncos in the hunt in December, which we haven't seen since Cincinnati rolled in a couple years back when both teams were, I think, sitting around 500 or something.
Yeah, that was the Drew Lock fumble option game.
Yeah, and then I heard James
by the way,
say,
real quick on the Browns, that game did not get flexed off Monday Night Football. And I think that's important, that the NFL had that option yesterday to flex that off Monday Night Football because the Browns stink, and they said, no, we're going to put this Bo Nix kid in primetime. I thought that was a crucial sort of non-action by the league, that the deadline has come and gone. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman will be here Monday Night Football, December 2nd.
And a tip of the cap just to the performance that they had on Sunday, right? Like how far ahead do they make these decisions?
Well, they could have made it as late as yesterday afternoon. So, Cello, if they had lost to the Falcons, that game probably would have gotten flexed off. If they had barely beaten the Falcons, that game may have gotten flexed off. But Bo Nix, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, passer rating of 145, completion percentage around 85. I think the NFL exec said, no. We're putting this kid in primetime.
And I think it was a lot to do with what they did on Sunday. But I think they also looked at how they played against Kansas City, and knowing that they're in the thick of the playoff hunt, that you want to see a game like that and a young quarterback go out and see what they do in prime time. I think James alluded to it. The tough game you have left is probably the Chargers. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Kansas City down the stretch, right?
And that's the final game of the season. And I do think it was, and I went round and round with Zach and Phil about this, and Zach and I were on the same page. Phil a little different, but I do think if the Chiefs were undefeated, they would have gone for the undefeated season. So I think it's important that they're no longer undefeated, and maybe, just maybe, they do have nothing to play for in Week 18. Because guess what? I'm not apologizing for playing Carson Wentz with the playoffs on the line. I'm just not,
neither.
bro. I'm just not.
Listen, man, and everybody cheered. We were out and about watching that Bills and Chiefs game, and we were at an establishment where everyone erupted when Josh Allen scored and the Bills went. And I'm sure Zach loved it as well. And I'd be pulling for the Bills because I think they've gotten a raw shake of things, in recent years. But I won't be upset if Kansas City finds a way and they're there and they don't have to play Patrick Mahomes or any other starters in that final game against the Broncos.
Yeah, it is that fine line to tread of I want the Chiefs to lose because we just talked about, maybe you go back to Arrowhead, whatever. But then there's also that line of, well, we kind of want the Chiefs to have the 1 seed wrapped up so that Mahomes and Kelsey just go party with Taylor and Brittany and maybe don't even get on the plane to Denver.
Yeah, I mean, even if that is the case, say they drop the game to the Chargers, then you have Cincinnati in there in the mix too. Who knows where they're going to be? I would assume they're still they can't lose another football game. If they lose another one before the Broncos get there, then you may not see their full arsenal either. But heck, you got 2 games to play with, in my opinion, right?
Well, and since he does feel like a team that's on kind of the verge of crumbling, falling apart. I mean, you've got the whole T. Higgins franchise tag thing. He's gone. They didn't pay Jamar Chase, which is one of the dumbest decisions in the history of football. Joe Burrow's having this historically great year where some of these quarterbacks who have put up these types of numbers are like Tom Brady in these undefeated season where he finishes 18-1. If I'm Burrow, I'm wondering, can I win here? And if you already lost Tyler Boyd last year, you're going to strip me of Higgins and Jamar? If I'm Joe, I might be plotting an exit plan out of Cincinnati. My point being that you're right. If they lose 1 or 2 more, that thing's bound to combust in the Super Bowl window in Cincinnati, slam shut.
Well, you brought it up last week, and I think you might still be right, just given the way the schedule falls. Is you said that game between Denver and Cincinnati could have a lot on the line. And I think I agree with you.
And the Chargers did you a big favor on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Handing the Bengals the 7th loss was big. Because if Cincy was 5-6 and you were 6-5, guess what? It's a 2-game swing because it's not only the game, it's the tiebreaker. Getting that 2-game separation because L.A. and Jim Harbaugh beat Cincy was big.
Yeah, but look at it was great on Sunday night. Hey, it looks like the Broncos are solidifying a playoff push. Here's what the Bengals have coming up, Will. They're home to Pittsburgh. They could beat the Steelers. Stranger things have happened in that division, right?
Russ did not throw a touchdown last week.
6 field goals.
And his red zone interception, oh my gosh, Jello. We've seen that movie before.
Yeah.
Everyone was watching red zone about 150, because you had 15 minutes to flip over the Broncos game. And here they are with a chance to seal the game. And Russ throws a bad pick in the end zone. And you're like, oh,